Welcome again. This is Isaac Miruri, and welcome to the second edition of our discussion on LGBTQI plus community and African society. Well, I said that we're going to be doing this as quick as possible just before the Kenyan Parliament bans discussion and also publishing of such materials. The bill continues today for our first reading in Parliament, and it's not like we're doing anything bad. We're just having a topical or a thematic conversation on what has really hit the headlines across social media, across traditional media, across social platforms and social agencies. Well, we left at the introduction last time, and here we are again. We are looking at really the history and, of course, the movement of the LGBTQ I plus. This community did not start as we know it today. Actually, the activism began with the gay community. And so in the West, they thought that the gay communities were abnormals. And so this really prompted some prominent people coming up and really representing this community. For one reason or the other, they were able to probably understand them in a more convincing way, and so they used their platforms as prominent people in entertainment and in corporate to stand for the gay community and gay rights. And so from the academic point of view, because I'm an academician, I will look at several theories, and probably the first theory of a multiple group identity, which was presented by Collins, PH, in 1990, really looked at the issue of gay and lesbian rights in America. And the group emerged as a subgroup, as a group of those who are oppressed by the dominant culture in the society, and they are not given space, or they are not mainstreamed into the limelight. And so it began really after there was the civil rights movement by the late Martin Luther King Jr. and likes, because they were fighting for the black folks' rights. There were very many other rights movements in America, including people with disabilities and the First Nation groups and other many subgroups that are unique to that society. And so the idea or the theory of multiple group identity came up again during the clamor for the feminism, black feminism, which really countered the narrative that the gay black men and black men were categorized as one group or one set, or people who go through the same kind of oppression through systems and mechanisms and structures of oppression. But these women countered, and also on behalf of the heterosexual women, and said that the black men, regardless whether they're gay or black, they still oppressed black women, or whichever women they married, the Hispanics or European or Americans, and so on and so forth. And so the black feminism began to come up, and this is what our guy Collins really highlighted: the theory of people in a society that is so much exposed to the point of people wanting to have multiple identities. Like, for example, identities that we grapple with here in Africa, and in particular in Kenya, is you are an African. That is your natural identity because you're black. But there are people who are born in Africa who are not necessarily black, but they are Africans. Okay? And so the aspect of multiple identities does not limit black people as the only identifiable mark of an African. But the black African men and women grapple with being an African Christian, an African Muslim. So those are two identities. And so it is something that we in Kenya are experiencing among the Kikuyu nation. The Christians, there are Christians who have started a movement of an African Christian, or a Kikuyu Christian, and they are bringing back the old traditional values and cultural practices that are acceptable or are in consonant with the Old Testament back into the church. And so there are other identities whereby the American lifestyle or the West identifiable mark of somebody who is successful is actually identifying yourself with what you do. That is another identity mark. And so you'll find you want to identify yourself as an African, as a certain person who subscribes to a certain religion, and then what do you do to earn a living? This is not African. Again, this is a second foreign identity that we are trying to grapple with. Finally, you may want to probably, according to your society, you're either a husband or a wife or a parent. And so you'll find this strong identity mark of the father of so-and-so, or the mother of so-and-so, or the aunt of so-and-so, or the uncle of so-and-so. And so it is a very strong mark of identity in the African society. And then from there, you may want to have your achievements. You're probably at one point a very successful footballer, or a sports person, or a musician, or an entertainer, or you probably never had a white-collar job, but you had a successful blue-collar job or a career. And so those are some of the identities, and the multiple identity theory talks about that. And so in this theory, they say that your exposure really determines your worldview, which is true. Somebody who has not gone to school may not want to be identified with whatever those school-going people are doing. Like, for example, it is said that the LGBTQI plus community is an elitist organization. And so it is for the people who are exposed to this kind of information, and they know how they benefit with that. And it could be also an avenue of really people benefiting, because there is too much joblessness among the elites, and it is really bringing them towards mental issues, challenges. And so probably the LGBTQI plus, it is another platform for people to make money or to earn a living, which is really not understandable to anybody who understands life from a traditional perspective. And so we continue with these subgroups that in most history of the subgroups, let's say like the Africans during colonization, during slavery, the Aborigines during the oppression by the Australian white government, South Africans during the apartheid by the white government, the Indian, the First Nation in Americas, the Red Indians, and other ethnic communities that were oppressed by the colonialists, the slave masters, and of course the post-Civil War American government. And so all these subgroups really found their way to what it is called a plastic getaway. You just find something to do to forget the miseries that you're going through. And so this plastic getaway could be another idea that probably the LGBTQI plus community are really presenting to the society for people to find solace and of course to get away from their miseries. In the Kenyan society today, people are talking about how young people are really taking alcohol, and so it is a big concern for our society. And lest we do something, probably it is we're going to lose a whole generation. But like the people in church say, there are always remnants, and so it is actually either the question is either is it a choice or is it part of the mental issue challenges. And so also these institutions like parliament, the religious institutions, and so on and so forth, really need to come up with a way of trying to understand people from their personal need, people in their personal spaces, what people are going through. Sorry. And of course, it is a very important thing for church organizations or religious organizations and Muslims and Hindus and so on and so forth to really be able to seek for services of professional psychologists, professional researchers, and other professionals whom they have in their disposal, so that they can be able to come up with very acceptable documents, acceptable procedures, acceptable means of solving issues, acceptable and scientific or empirical way of arriving or solving a problem or arriving at a solution. And so the dominant society has been accused by subgroups many a times that they are good in labeling. For example, when the gay community came, I said they were called abnormals. And so when they went through a psychiatrist procedure, or rather sessions, the results came out positive. They are normal. They were normal people. Only that there was a prevalence of HIV and AIDS among them in the 80s. And so there was a deliberate step for people to started discussing really what is this, if these people are not normal, so what is happening to them. I remember when I was in campus at St. Paul's University, in one lesson, which I'll not mention which, one unit, we were told that if you want to identify a member of a gay and lesbian community, and especially for men, when you look at the grains of the hair, for other people, the majority, the grain goes clockwise. But for those who are not part of that, they are differently abled, theirs is anti-clockwise. And so you'll find that there are terms like your boy for men who behave like women, and tomboys for girls who behave like boys. And so you'll realize the two labeling and the two identities that are given to these two groups are really patriarchal. One, there is a yo boy, and the other one is a tomboy. I mean, it was supposed to be fair. For the tomboy, there there's supposed to be something to do with a feminine labeling, but again, these are platforms that are used to say that the patriarchal society has some structures and mechanisms and processes and systems that really keep men really ahead in terms of opportunities. And so the idea of trying to not accept the labeling that is different or that is insulting to any subgroup was really looked at by several scholars, three of them in 2003. There was Elia, there was Lovers, and there was Yep. And so they looked at the queer theory that came up in the 70s in America, where the LGBTQI labeling was not there. So this is a progressive movement of identifying people who share values and lifestyles of oppression, either naturally or even in association. And so this theory looks at the concept of binary identity or binary description. For example, among people who are religious, you will find them talking about God and other forces, or God and Satan. So they like put God and Satan at the same par. And because this binary thinking is a Western thinking, which we call dualism. So duality has really contributed into many civilizations ever since the Industrial Revolution and the time that non-Western societies were exposed to the Western tradition and through education, through religion, through economic activities, and so on and so forth. And so this duality has really caused a lot of problems, even among religion or religious movement, all through the history of, for example, the church. The church, with regard to the African church and the universal church, could not continue thinking along the same line from the time the universal church was being set in 323 to a time when the African church felt that they were being oppressed, and so they had to really chart their own way, look at this issue from their own perspective, through their own lenses. Furthermore, they held the first gospel of St. Mark, which was written to the Copts. And so the Copts thought that they were being oppressed, they were being mistreated because, of course, the emperor of that time, Emperor Constantine, was a European. And so any ideas that came from Africans are very few that were accepted, like the first clauses of the Nicene Creed, which was at that time called the Athanasian Creed. But the other components had to come in from the European to have a Nicene Creed and make it a European creed, even by name Nicene. And so the idea of Africans being monist, and among other communities which are non-European are monist, they really find difficulties in really looking at issues from the same lens and the same perspective. And so the idea of binary concept looked at this with regard to LGBTQI+. And so there was the idea of some homosexual versus the heterosexual. And so these led to a conclusion that identity are voluntary. Actually, they said it is a choice. And so it is up to you to think of, along these lines. Think about yourself, think about your fellow, because God has placed that person next to you. Just have a chat, because this thing has been so private for a long time, and now it is coming up. Really, in as much as I'm really looking at the Western culture as the cause of very many things, I applaud it for one thing: it exposes and it opens up conservatism. So it's up to you. Look at this soberly. Other points you can do further reading, and you'll be able to get more materials. So thank you so much. I'll see you soon in yet another edition. Remember to subscribe, follow, and like, and even comment and even dislike through my social pages: Isaac Mirori, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So thank you so much, and much blessing.